In this piping training video, we are going to be reviewing on-screen configuration, which controls default preferences, actions, and behaviors within on-screen. To navigate to on-screen's configuration dialog box, navigate to the Setup ribbon and select Pipe Takeoff Options. We will be reviewing the three tabs within the configuration dialog box, as well as an explanation of each of the options within the tabs. Before we go through each of the options, please understand options that are grayed out are not available in this version of QuoteSoft. We will only be reviewing the options that are selectable. We will be starting in the Pipe Takeoff tab and reviewing the general options. Confirm item deletion. Existing takeoff items can be selected within the on-screen window, as well as the audit trail. While an item is selected, you can either right-click and select Delete, or use the Delete button on your keyboard. Either way, you will be presented with a dialog box confirming you want the item to be deleted. Selecting Yes is a permanent deletion of the items, removing it from on-screen and the audit trail. This action cannot be undone. Selecting No will cancel the deletion. It is suggested that you select the option Confirm Item Deletion so that you don't mistakenly delete items. Enable Auto Hanger for vertical pipe. While scaling horizontal pipe mains and branch pipe, the program will auto-generate your hanger counts. With the option Enable Auto Hanger for vertical pipe unselected, and when taking off vertical pipe, the program will not auto-generate hangers. Your vertical pipe supports would need to be manually taken off. However, with the option selected, and when taking off vertical pipe, the program will auto-generate your default hanger, which is usually a horizontal pipe support. It is suggested that you use this option with specs set up for riser diagram takeoff. And now, Auto Accept on New Item select after quantity adjustment. You will use this option when simply inputting a written material list. The behavior of this feature is, after an item's size and quantity have been entered, upon selecting a new item, the previous item will be automatically accepted into the audit trail. If the option is unselected, the behavior is, upon taking off each new item and after entering a quantity, you will be required to select the Accept button to save each item into the audit trail. Check for changes from spec default before accepting item. With the option selected, this is the behavior. If, while scaling pipe, the user changes a default value from the spec here in item info, such as turning installation off, the user will be prompted alerting him to the change. If the option is not selected, the user will not be prompted. And now, auto scale options. For customers who utilize a digitizer, please understand that advanced takeoff can still be used with that technology, and Autoscale options only come into play when using a digitizer. Please call QuoteSoft if you wish to use a digitizer, and we will assist you with setting up the digitizer and training you. And now, autosave. Autosave simply saves the current zone's takeoff every X amount of items. The autosave item count can be adjusted. 50 is the default, and it's suggested you do not go lower than 10. And now, assembly and job item list display. These options control how job items and assemblies are displayed in both the pallets and in takeoff. Setting the assembly list display to name will display the name given to the assembly when it was created. Setting the assembly list display to description will display only the description given to the assembly when it was created. Selecting both will display both the name and the description for assemblies. For the job item list display, selecting code will display only the code given to the job item when it was created. Setting the option to description will display only the description given to the job item when it was created. And lastly, selecting both will display both the code and the description of job items. And now, quick factors. To understand this option, you will first need to be shown how to adjust labor here in Onscreen. Within the scope palette, you will find the option Per Item Factor. The Per Item Factor allows the estimator to individually adjust labor on each item taken off. This is a factoring field, not a percentage field. For example, a factor of 1, as shown here, will generate the default labor. However, if the estimator would like to add 10%, a factor of 1.1 would be used. Labor can also be adjusted less than the default. For example, a per item factor of 0.9 would use 10% less labor. Quick factors allow you to set up to 8 individual per item factors here in the scope palette. You will now be shown how to set up quick factors. Start by selecting the quick factor button to edit. Buttons 1 through 4 are the top row. Buttons 5 through 8 are the bottom row. We will start by setting up quick factor button 1. Next, you will have to enter a factor to be set. I'm going to use an example of a congested ceiling space where I will want to add 15% labor. Because the button is small, only one character can be used to identify the button. However, when hovering over the button, a pop-up value can be added. This is the behavior of the pop-up on the quick factor button. To use quick factors during takeoff, simply select the button to populate the per item factor field with the desired factor. You can continue setting up the rest of the quick factor buttons by selecting the button and assigning the values. And now, spooled pipe options. These options will only be utilized when using a spec that has been assigned ductile iron spool pieces for the pipe. And here is the behavior of the program when takeoff entry is set to length. Spooled lengths of pipe will be scaled off from their beginning point to their ending points. And the pipe will be recorded in the audit trail by feet inches. With the takeoff entry length selected, auto insert short piece is an option. With the option unselected, here is the behavior of the program. When lengths of spool pipe are scaled off, note in the audit trail that 2 standard lengths of 10-foot pipe were generated. Also notice that even though a scaled length of 18 feet 2 inches was scaled off, the highlighted pipe represents the full 20 feet. And now the behavior with Auto Insert Short Piece selected. When lengths of spool pipe are now scaled, the audit trail shows the standard 10-foot length and the short piece. And now spooled pipe in quantity takeoff. When any configuration of pipe is selected, you will be prompted to select the spool length desired, and then the links are manually counted. And now, spec pallets options. With the option Show Spec Info in Title of Spec Pallets unselected, pallets that are populated by a spec will only display the title of the pallet. With the option selected, you will then have 3 display options. With Display Name Only selected, each pallet will display the name of the current spec. With the option Display Description Only, you will see only the description of the spec in each pallet. And lastly, with the display name and description selected, you will see both the display and the description in each pallet. When the active zone in the zone list is changed to a zone using a different spec, the pallets will remind you of the current spec being used. New Zone Dialog option. With the option selected, when creating a new zone, the default scale will inherit the previous zone's scale. With the option unselected, and when creating a new zone, a new scale will have to be set each time. Sleeve size options. Different types of floor and wall sleeves, as well as core drills, can be defined in specs. The sleeve size options depict how sleeves will be sized during takeoff. Here is the behavior when using manually size. It will simply generate a sleeve size of the current size selected. Sleeves, however, are oversized, and using the manually size option, you would have to calculate the size of the pipe plus the insulation thickness on both sides plus the sleeve gap on both sides as well. Then round up to the nearest standard size. Or you could simply use the automatically size option, define your gap allowances here, and the program will calculate the appropriate sleeve size for you. And lastly, for pipe takeoff options, sound options. With the option No Sounds selected, no sounds will be generated when left-clicking your mouse in Onscreen. Use System Sounds will utilize the default sounds provided with the program. With the use of Use System Sounds, you will have the option for Sound on Size Prompt. With the option selected, you will hear an audio cue when selecting a reducing fitting. And lastly, you will have the option to use custom sounds. Please understand, custom sounds only utilize WAV files, and those files must be available on your local computer. Select the button Set up Custom Sounds, and select the gray button next to each option to select the WAV file. This concludes this video of Configurations Pipe Takeoff Options. Please continue to the next video for on-screen options.